Hello, Sonia here and welcome back to my channel Grammar Forward. Currently, I am doing a series on parts of speech and we have already dealt with some of them like nouns, pronouns, adjectives, verbs and adverbs. If you are new here, please do subscribe and don't forget to click the notification bell so that you won't miss my new videos. Let's take up the next part of speech called prepositions. When you hear the word prepositions, are you reminded of those two-letter words like in, on, at, and so on? Then you are absolutely right. These words are small but are very important. A sentence wouldn't make sense without the use of prepositions. Let me explain this with the help of an example. We have the sentence, the coffee is the table, you. I'm sure it doesn't make any sense, right? Now let's read the same sentence after adding some words to it. The coffee is on the table beside you. We just added two words and they are prepositions. It added a lot of meaning to the sentence. This is the power of prepositions. Most English-speaking people recall only a handful of common prepositions, but in reality, there are about 150 different ones. And 3 of them have made it into the list of the top 10 most commonly used words in the English language, namely of, to, and in. There's something special about prepositions. They are a closed class. That means no new members are added to their club. A preposition is a word or a group of words that demonstrates the relationship between a noun or a pronoun with the other words in a sentence. In short, they are connector words. They show relationships. A preposition should always be followed by a noun or a pronoun. They are never followed by verbs. There is no exception to this rule. Let's see how a preposition generally does its work. In the previous example we had, the coffee is on the table beside you. In the sentence we have two prepositions, on and beside. The first preposition on shows the relation between two nouns, coffee and table, and the second one beside tells you how the noun table is related to the pronoun you. In another example we have, he is fond of cheesecake. In this sentence, we have the preposition of and it tells you how the adjective fond is related to the noun cheesecake. Prepositions add extra information to a sentence such as direction, time, place, movement, manner, agent, measure, source, and possession. Thus, prepositions can be classified on the basis of their use in a sentence such as prepositions of time, prepositions of place, those of movement, manner, agent, measure, source, and possession. Let's have a detailed look at each one of them. Prepositions of time are used to indicate when a particular event happened. The 3 basic prepositions of time are at, in, and on. Other examples are before, during, after, and so on. We use in when referring to months, years, parts of the day, seasons, and long periods like centuries. For example, the Titanic sank in 1912. We use the preposition in because we are talking about a particular year, 1912. In the next example we have, it is cold in December. We use the word in because we are referring to a month, December. On is used when referring to days, dates, and special holidays. For example, I don't work on Saturdays. Here I use the preposition on because the name of the day is mentioned. He was born on the 6th of February. In this sentence again, the date is specified, so we have to use the preposition on. In the last one, she is going home on Christmas. Here I am talking about a special day and we have to use the preposition on. When referring to a specific time, we use the preposition at. For example, I got home at 6 p.m. I will meet you at noon. A word of caution here, though for the other parts of the day we use in, for midnight and noon we have to use at. That's because it's a very short period of time. When the clock strikes 12, it's midnight or noon. Hence we have to use the preposition at. Now moving on to the next type of prepositions called prepositions of place. These prepositions are used to refer to a place where someone or something is located. The most common prepositions of place are in, on, and at. It's interesting to notice that these prepositions are also used to indicate time. In general, we use on when referring to a surface, whether it is horizontal or vertical. For example, the books are on the desk. She drew a picture on a piece of paper. In both these cases, we are talking about a surface, whether it is a desk or a piece of paper. So we have to use the preposition on. On the other hand, we use in when referring to an enclosed space. For example, the fruits are in the basket. So here I mean that fruits are kept inside something. In another example we have, they went for a walk in the park. So the park is considered to be an enclosed space. So we have to use the preposition in. Yet another commonly used preposition of place is at. At is used when referring to a point, and this could mean even a building. For example, someone is knocking at the door. Here the exact point where the knocking takes place is mentioned, so we have to use the preposition at. Another example is the restaurant is at the end of the street. The point where the restaurant is situated is mentioned here, so we have to use the preposition at. We have even more examples of prepositions of place like over, under, near, between, and so on. Now moving on to the third type of prepositions called prepositions of movement. These prepositions indicate the direction in which someone or something is moving. The most common preposition of movement is to, but we have other examples like across, through, into, around, and so on. As I mentioned earlier, to is the most commonly used preposition of movement. We use to show movement with the aim of a specific destination. For example, we traveled to France last year. Or I can say, he has gone to the club. Another commonly used preposition of movement is into, and it is used to talk about a movement that enters a space. This preposition into is usually used with verbs which denote movement. Examples are, she poured the milk into the glass. He walked into the room. You can see that the preposition into is used with verbs that express some kind of movement. Another preposition of movement is through, and we use it to talk about a movement from inside to outside. So here we have some examples. The boy walked through the corridor. We drove through the tunnel. A similar preposition of movement is across, and it is used to refer to a movement from one side of something to the other, which has sides or limits such as a city or a road or a river. It's also used when something touches or stretches from one side to another. An example can be, the boy swam across the river. Now, the fourth kind of prepositions called prepositions of manner. These prepositions indicate the way in which something happens or something is done. The most commonly used preposition of manner is by, but we have other examples like in, on, with, like, and so on. Here we have some examples. My father often goes to work by car. How does my father go to work? By car. The next sentence, he sang like a professional. How did he sing? Like a professional. So these two prepositions denote the way in which the action was done or the manner in which it was done. So they are called prepositions of manner. That takes us to the fifth type of prepositions called prepositions of agent and instrument. These prepositions connect an action with the person who performed the action. The two main prepositions of agency and instrumentality are by and with. So we have two examples here. This cake was baked by my sister. So the baking of the cake is the action, and that was caused by the person, my sister. So the doing and the doer are connected with the help of the preposition by. In the next example we have, she chopped the vegetables with a knife. So chopping of the vegetables is the action, and that is being connected with the instrument knife with the help of the preposition with. The next type is prepositions of measure, and these indicate some quantity. The most common prepositions of measure are of, at, and by. Here are some examples. She bought a pound of cheese. Another one, our team won the match by 3 wickets. The seventh type of prepositions is prepositions of source. These are used to indicate that a noun or a pronoun has originated from another noun or a pronoun mentioned in a sentence. Examples are from and by. Let's look at some sentences. The earth receives light from the sun. Our new manager is from Delhi. That takes us to the last type of prepositions called prepositions of possession. These prepositions, as the name suggests, are used to indicate that a noun or a pronoun owns another noun or a pronoun that's mentioned in the sentence. Examples of prepositions of possession are with, of, to. Here we have some examples. The baby with blue eyes is my niece. Here the preposition used is with, and that implies some kind of possession. Another sentence is, this property belongs to my family. Here again the preposition to denotes that there is some kind of ownership. Prepositions can also be classified on the basis of the way in which they are constructed. Thus we have simple prepositions, double prepositions, compound prepositions, and participle or participial prepositions. Simple prepositions are single word prepositions. Hence they are also called single prepositions. Examples are at, for, in, on, of, and so on. We have some examples. Keep your phones in your pockets. It rained at night. You can easily identify the single word prepositions here, in and at. And then we have double prepositions, which are formed by putting two single prepositions side by side. And these prepositions often indicate direction. Examples are into, onto, out of, up to, throughout, and so on. Let's have some examples here. She never leaves without her phone. In the next sentence, the baby climbed onto the table. So in these examples, you can see the double prepositions without and onto. And how are they constructed? In without, you have two prepositions with and out placed side by side. And in the next one, you have onto. Again, you have two single prepositions on and to put together. Now let's take up the third type of prepositions called compound prepositions. These prepositions are made up of two or more words. Some of them may be written as one word. In such cases, they are formed by adding a prefix to a root word. For example, we have along, before, behind, beside, and so on. You can see that the word along is formed by adding the prefix a with the root word long. The same thing happens with beside. We have the prefix be fixed to the root word side. Now let's look at a sentence examples. Sonam sat beside her mother. There is nothing left inside the container. So in these two sentences, you have the compound prepositions beside and inside, and they are written as one word. Now we have some other compound prepositions which consist of two or more separate words, usually a simple preposition and another word. For example, you have according to, in addition to, on top of, and because of. You can see that in according to, you have the preposition to added to the word according, and you have two words there. But in the case of in addition to, you have two prepositions in and to added to a word addition, and that is an example for a compound preposition which has three words. We have some sentence examples here. I found his name on top of the list. My car is parked in front of the mailbox. The last type is participial prepositions. They are also called participial prepositions. Here, the participial form of a verb functions as a preposition. You know that a participle may be present participle that ends in ing or past participle that ends in ed. Let's have some examples of participial prepositions. We have assuming, barring, considering, concerning, given, notwithstanding, and so on. Let's take up some sentence examples here. Assuming that you score high marks, what are your future plans? Considering his age, he did a great job. He will join the company provided good salary is offered. You can see that in sentences 1 and 2, we are using the present participle form because these words end in ing, assuming and considering. But in the third sentence, we have used the past participle form because it ends in ed, provided. Before winding up, let me share some tips with you. Here is tip number 1. We either talk about or discuss something. Don't use the preposition about after the verb discuss. Thus, it's correct to say, we talked about following a healthy diet. You cannot say, we discussed about following a healthy diet. On to tip number 2. Although we use the preposition in when referring to other parts of the day, for night we should use at. Thus, it is correct to say it is cold at night, but it is totally wrong to say it's cold in the night. Tip number 3. We do not use any preposition of time such as in or on or at with words like last, next, every, and this. So it is correct to say he traveled to Dubai last year, and it is wrong to say He traveled to Dubai in last year. Tip number 4. When referring to specific places, we should always use arrive at. So we can say, when we arrived at the station, the train had already left, not when we arrived to the station. Here goes the last tip. When referring to cities or countries or other large areas, we always use arrive in. Thus, we are permitted to say, he will arrive in Dubai at noon, not he will arrive at Dubai. I believe you found this session of Grammar Forward helpful. If so, please do subscribe to my channel. See you in the next session. Goodbye until then. Take care and stay safe.